Hi everybody, my name's Julia from Bobbins and Buttons, and today I'm going to show you how to alter a child's trouser pattern for a better fit. So the first thing I want to talk about is size, because just like adults, children vary massively in size, so it's really important to take their measurements before you start. So in every pattern you'll have a body measurement size chart, and you'll usually have a garment measurement size chart as well. So I'd recommend starting with the body measurement size chart and just take a scrap of paper and measure your child and write down the measurements that are relevant to the pattern you're making. So in this case we're looking at waist and hips and height, and then take the measurements that you've measured from the child you're making for and just compare it to the size chart. You might be really lucky and have an exact match, and that's great, you can just make a straight size, but if you haven't, that's where these alterations will come in. So as we go through, I'll give you scenarios of the adjustments that I'm making and show you how to do those alterations. So I'm going to use the Joseph jogger pattern to demonstrate these alterations. So this is a jersey slim fit jogger style, and the alterations that I'm going to show you are the more simple alterations, which include length and grading between the sizes, which are relevant to patterns like this, but will cross over into other trouser patterns as well. So the first alteration I'm going to show you is how to add length. But just before I start, I just want to quickly mention that I'm going to work on the smallest size of the pattern piece, which is 12 months, just so that it fits into the frame of the video. And secondly, I'm going to draw the lines with a thick marker pen just so that you can see them. But I would recommend that you use a fine sharp pencil to do your pattern alterations if you can. And you will also need a ruler with a right angle. I use a Pattern Master, which I think is a great tool to have even if you're not working on patterns all the time. I think it's a really useful tool in the dressmaking kit, but any ruler with a right angle will also be fine. So for this first scenario, I'm going to say that the child measures correctly for the waist and the hips, but needs a large amount of extra length, an extra 4 centimetres, which is quite a lot. So quite often you'll see on patterns that they'll have a line drawn across them that says shorten or lengthen here. I don't have that on this pattern, partly because I think sometimes too many lines can get a bit confusing, but it's very easy to add the lines. So to start with, we need to extend the grain line. So all I'm going to do is line my ruler up with the grain line, and I'm going to draw in the grain line through the middle. So now I've got the grain line to work as a right angle to draw my new lines in. But the next thing I want to think about is, are there any pockets or placements that are going to be affected by where I add the extra length? So in this case we have actually got the knee patch. So if I add my full 4 centimetres through the thigh, the knee patch is going to potentially be too low, and likewise if I add it through the lower leg, then it's going to be too high. And the other thing is, I want the width to be evenly distributed. So I'm going to divide my 4 centimetres between the thigh and the calf. So all I'm going to do is I'm going to place the right angle of the ruler against the grain line in the mid-thigh area, and I'm just going to draw across. And then I'm going to do exactly the same thing below the knee patch and draw across. So now I've got those marked, I'm going to cut the lines. And now I'm going to bring in a piece of paper. So what I like to do at this stage is just to redraw a grain line onto the piece of paper, which helps with lining everything up. So I'm just going to start with a straight line, And now I'm going to place the upper piece onto the grain line and match it up with the grain line. So we've got a nice straight line running right the way through. And sellotape that, or use masking tape, whichever you prefer. And then, like I said, I'm going to add the 2 centimetres at the top and 2 centimetres at the bottom. So with a pattern master ruler, you've got 1/2 centimetre increments across the edge, so you can easily line up the 2 centimetre mark with the line that you've drawn, and that will draw in the 2 centimetres. But you can also use a standard ruler and just mark 2 centimetres at each point and draw that line in. But because I've got this pattern master, I'm going to go ahead and draw my 2 centimetres. So again, I'm going to bring the next piece in and tape that down. So lining up with the grain line again. And then do the same with the lower edge. Matching that grain line. So now all we need to do is to join the sides up, and this side is fairly straight, there's no shaping on there, so I'm just going to be able to put the ruler against those 3 pieces and just join it up. But this side, we've got staggered points now. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring the line out a little bit at the upper edge here and bring it in a little bit here, so that I can sort of mark halfway between those 2 points and start to draw in a new line. So the other thing about working with a pattern master like this is that you have a curve on the edge, so you can use that curve if you're working with a curved edge. Let's just hold that down a little bit better. Actually, the straight edge is working probably a little bit better. So again, I'm going to bring a little bit in and a little bit out there. And like I said, it's much easier with a sharp pencil to get better accuracy. But there you can see we've got a new line that's not taking too much off any area, so it's keeping the shape nice and even. So for this second scenario, I'm going to say that this child measures correctly for the waist and hips again, but we just want to reduce the length by 1 centimetre. So that's a very small amount, so we don't really need to divide that into 2 areas. We can just do that through the widest part. So I've done the same as we did on the first one, which was to draw in the grain line and draw a right angle across the grain line to divide it at the widest part, and then I've cut the pattern. So I'm going to bring in the paper now and we'll draw the new lines for this one. So to start with, again, I'm going to draw the grain line in. This time I'm going to extend it so that I can see it below and above the pattern piece. And then I'm going to place the pattern piece on the grain line and take that down. And now I'm going to draw a 1 centimetre line below the edge of the pattern piece, which is where we want to reduce it to. So again, I'm using the line on the pattern master. It's gone on the sellotape, so it's blurred a bit. And now I'm going to lay the top pattern piece onto that line and line up the grain line top and bottom. So again, sellotape that in place. And again, we've got a tiny little stagger here, so you can easily just smooth that out. Again, I'd go half on and half off just to create a nice even amount. And then that's ready to cut out and you've got the reduced length. So for this next scenario, I'm going to say that the child measures the right length for the 12-month, but they've got quite a lot bigger hip and tummy. So they actually measure the 2-year-old. So I'm going to use the 2-year-old line and grade that in with the 1-year-old leg, because their legs are still quite slim, but it's just their tummy and their hip area that's a bit bigger. So all we need to do for that is to cut the 2-year line for the rise length and width, and at this point here, we'll grade that back in with the 12-month size. So I'm just going to put the ruler on and grade and draw the line from the inseam line to that point, and that's really all it takes to get that increase on the hip and waist, but keep the length the same. So now I can cut round the 1-year-old and up to the 2-year-old around this area, and you would need to then use the 2-year-old size pockets because they would fit to this area here. So for this last scenario, because these are a slim fit jogger, I'm going to say that the child measures to the right size for the hips and the waist and the length, but you've made a pair and you've noticed some diagonal pull lines at the front crotch. So this usually indicates too tight a measurement over the thigh. So to rectify that, usually you can add a little bit to the back inseam, and that will help. So to do that, you just need to lay your pattern on some paper, and I'm just going to tape it down again so it doesn't move around. And then all you need to do is just extend the rise a little bit, and then I'm only going to add 1/2 centimetre. It's usually a lot less than you think, so I'm just going to grade that in to the side seam to nothing, around about to the knee point, and that should ease that situation. So you can use the alterations in conjunction with one another, so you can grade between sizes and increase or decrease the length and alter the thigh measurement as you need. Generally those are the main alterations you'd need on children's trousers, especially for easy fitting trousers like joggers. So I hope you enjoyed that tutorial, and if you'd like to see more tutorials, don't forget to subscribe to my YouTube channel. Thanks for watching.